Welcome to Friday's version of Thrive in the Word. We're going to continue our study of the church at Thyatira today. So if you have your Bibles, turn to Revelations, the second chapter, and we're going to begin with verse number 19. Now, as you're turning in your Bibles, and before we begin the message, I just want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and it will be a tremendous blessing to us. It will help us to reach more people than ever before, and that's what we want to do. Jesus is writing to the church at Thyatira, and he introduces himself as the Son of God, and then he says, I have flames of eyes that are flames of fire. And you know what? I've heard some preachers preach on this, and they're preaching that Jesus is going to burn you up. He's going to look into you, and he's going to see all your sin. He's just going to burn you. You know what? That's not what Jesus is doing. Jesus is building a relationship with the church. He's relating to where they're at. And when he says, I have eyes that are flames of fire, he's relating to a bunch of guys that worked in the trades. They knew what fire did. They knew that fire changed things. They knew that fire pierced things. They understood that fire was something that was useful. And so when Jesus says, I've got flames of fire in my eyes, he's not trying to scare the daylights out of them. He's just trying to say, you know what? I'm here to help you. I'm here to aid you. And then he says, I have feet like bronze. And again, bronze is something that's significant about judgment. But Jesus is saying, you know what? There's judgment. I'm going to lay judgment on you. But judgment is not the wrath of God. Understood? Please understand that judgment does not necessarily mean the wrath of God. It means that there's going to come correction. I'm going to do something. And again, Jesus is relating to these people. They knew what burnished bronze looked like. But now he says in verse number 19, he says, I know your deeds and your love and faith and service and perseverance, and that your deeds of late are greater than at first. Now, you know what? If you would read that, you would think, wow, what a wonderful church. But you know what? Jesus he comes to them and he says, I know, I see all of these things. And you know what? All of those things do not make a good church. Do you understand? And now some of you are going, whoa, what do you mean? Look at the list that Jesus gives. I know your deeds. I mean, churches need to have good deeds. And Jesus says, I see them. He didn't say I'm repulsed by them. He says, I see your deeds. I see what you're doing. I see that you're active. And then he says, I see your love. I see your love. I see the love that you have for one another. I see them. I see your love, your sacrificial love that you have for each other. I see it. I see your agape, is the Greek word there. And then he says, I see your faith. I see what you're doing in your faith. I see what your faith is producing. I see it. I see your faith. And then he says, and your service, how you're working for the Lord. I see your service to other people. I see it. I know it. I know it. And by the way, this word know is the Greek word eido, and it means to know by seeing something. I see it. I know it. Your perseverance, I know that you're not a bunch of quitters. You're just hanging in there, and you're persevering, and you're working. I see that. And then he says, and that your deeds of late are greater than at first. In other words, your deeds are greater. You're growing. You're growing. You're moving on. And you know what? If we would look at that today, we would say, what a wonderful, wonderful church that was. That must be one of the churches that Jesus had nothing against. Until we go to verse number 20. And verse number 20 says this, but I have this against you, that you tolerate the woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, and teaches and leads my bondservants astray, so that they commit acts of immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols. What's Jesus saying? He's saying, I see all of those things, but this is something I have against you. You're allowing a person by the name of Jezebel. You're allowing her to operate inside the church. Let me tell you something. I believe that all of these 7 churches are 7 different types of churches even today. And you know what? There's churches today that have people in them who are Jezebel spirits. They are like Jezebel. Now, who was Jezebel? Well, Jezebel was a queen in the Old Testament, and she would follow the prophets of Baal, and she got very upset with God's prophet when God's prophet had all the prophets of Baal put to death. But what Jesus is talking about is there's a person in the church at Thyatira. And this person is teaching. She calls herself a prophet. She's teaching things that are leading people into immorality. Now our time is running out for today, and we're going to get back into this verse number 20 on Monday. So join us on Monday as we look at the 7 churches of Revelation. God bless you. Thank you for being part of our audience. Thank you for listening. By the way, as we draw this to a close, if you would like to have my study notes, you know what? I would love to send them to you. Just go to our website at the end of this video. Go to our website, send me an email and say, Leon, I would like to have your study notes of the churches of Revelation. Thank you for watching. God bless you. We'll see you Monday.